Chris Paul, the journey was not too far away. We were thinking maybe the two LA teams were interested, the Clippers and the Lakers. They were both publicly interested. I thought the Celtics were a good option. They needed a distributor. But instead, the Golden State Warriors decided to step up and make a pretty big trade for Chris Paul and basically Chris Paul alone. So this was the trade. It was Chris Paul for Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, a bench player, Patrick Baldwin, a bench player, a 2027 second-round pick, and a 2030 first-round pick that's protected. I believe it's top 20 pick protected. Quite an interesting trade, to say the least. So I want to know, what was your reaction to this blockbuster trade?
I think it's quite a bit to give up for a 37-year-old basketball player who's never won a championship. He is a great player, though, and he is a super duper point guard, which is something they didn't have. I do think the reason they did it and got rid of Poole had a lot to do with their plans to re-sign Draymond Green to a long-term deal. I don't think that Draymond Green's going to be punching Chris Paul in the face.
That's fair.
Okay, and they need something to kind of calm down that chemistry from what it was explosive last year when Green punched Poole. Poole didn't have a great season. I think he was affected by it, and the whole team was affected by it for the year. And it's continually mentioned when you read articles about the Warriors that incident, which was caught on tape and we played here on the Harvey Hour, had an impact on the team, particularly on the road, and their inability to win games on the road and not get that deep into the playoffs. So I see why they made the trade. I think Chris Paul, a legendary player, and teamed up with Stephen Curry and the rest of that team, which has got some really good players on it. That's going to pack the house. They're going to be sold out every night with that team they've got. But whether they can get to a championship, I think is questionable.
I will say this. The fit doesn't really work. Because the problems that it's the same thing with Phoenix. At least the concept of you got a great player, yeah, but the problems you had, they still aren't fixed. The Bradley Beal trade, the problem with the Phoenix Suns was in the playoffs, they had no bench. It was KD and it was Devin Booker, and that was it. They had no bench. In this case, the Warriors, they had no size. So you go out and get a 38-year-old 6-foot point guard. Huh? But
they may not be done. Maybe they're not done.
Maybe. I mean, there is. I was looking at it today. Do I have the? I may have the player in front of me here. There is a particular player that I was looking at that could make the most sense if they are still going to, if they're not entirely done. And maybe I'll get that name up soon. But the fit just flat out doesn't work. You have a 38-year-old point guard, by the way, who will probably come off the bench. Chris Paul has never came off the bench in his entire career. He's played 1,200 games. 1,214 games. Guess how many games he just has started? 1,214. And now he has to come off the bench, and the Warriors bench doesn't really have a lot of juice. You got Moses Moody, you got Kuminga, and you have Chris Paul. Those are your main bench guys. You really have no one else. You got rid of Poole, which I guess it was Poole or Draymond Green. Draymond Green declined his player option. He'll probably come back. I said 5 years, I think 140 on Monday. That's my guess. But outside of that, your main player, like your main big guy, is Kevon Looney, who isn't an offensive guy whatsoever.
He's pretty good defensively, and he is a pretty good rebounder.
He's a good rebounder, and that's really all he does. But I'm going to talk about this in our next topic. But the NBA right now is moving back to the big man, but it's not the traditional big man. It's the scoring, agile, push the ball down the court big man. An Embiid, a Giannis, a Jokic. Those guys are the top tier players in the league. Anthony Davis even. And the Warriors. Porzingis, yeah, we'll talk about him in the next topic. But the NBA is I guess slowly going. Victor Wembanyama, he got picked first overall last night. Supposed to be a better prospect than LeBron James. Who knows what'll happen with him? But this is the way the league's moving.
I don't think that's true.
He can't shoot threes. That's a big asterisk to his game. But the Warriors, yeah, this is a good move, I guess, for the culture-wise, and maybe that's what it is. Because,
I think it's the culture.
Because there was a report we talked about. I don't know if we talked about it. You may not have been here. I think you were, though. How the Warriors are going to do an off-season, culture evaluation, a team reflection on where this team's headed. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the move that internally they were discussing. Getting rid of your future in Jordan Poole was supposed to be the third splash brother. If Clay or Steph retire, he was supposed to be the next one to step up, or both of them. Instead, you get rid of him and you replace him with Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul, we said this before. He doesn't carry toxicity with him. That's the thing. You look at any team that Chris Paul has been on. You haven't heard a lot of toxicity within the team. And maybe that's what it is. You bring Draymond in, you got rid of Jordan Poole, so the conflict there is gone. Chris Paul is a mature, I'm pretty sure he's one of the leaders of the NBA PA, if I'm not mistaken. He's
a smart guy.
He's called the point guard.
Intelligent guy. He just came out with a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but to me, your problems don't get fixed. Because Chris Paul also, he'll take handles away from Curry. Curry will now have to play mainly off the ball if they do play together. Klay Thompson, he isn't the defender he used to be. He had a better year than he did last year coming off an injury, but still, he isn't the guy he once was. You have Kuminga, who they didn't even play in the playoffs. This team has no size. You were 30th in free throw attempts. I have it right here. You were 30th in free throw attempts, 30th in turnovers, 28th in personal fouls. You were, 14th on the offensive boards. So what are you going to do?
Well, maybe they're not done yet. Maybe they're going to try to get a big guy.
And the guy that I was thinking about was Brook Lopez. He's a free agent.
Oh, that would be a good choice.
I do, and plus Brook Lopez can shoot the three.
Yeah.
The Warriors are a huge three-point shooting team.
I think he'd be perfect for the Warriors.
He could be.
Yeah, he's no youngster though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. He's been around for a very, very long time, so he could be an option the Warriors go for.
But he hasn't lost anything.
Correct.
I think he played well last year.
If anything, his shot has developed more as his years progress. I will say this, though. Maybe not on the court it makes sense, but for the future, it saves future finances for the Warriors, because if we remember, they signed Jordan Poole to a massive contract.
$140 million 4-year deal.
Right. So now you're trading in Jordan Poole's, $128 million, give or take, for Chris Paul's $30.8. It's a huge financial saver for the Warriors. So on that regard, it makes a lot of sense. Now, Chris Paul has 2 years left on his contract, but only this first year is guaranteed for him. So we don't know exactly where Chris Paul will be next year, whether or not he'll stay, or whether or not, because next year's not guaranteed.
Depends on how well they do. If they win a championship, he'll be back.
Really? You don't think he'll walk off into the sunset, 38, 39 years old?
Well, that could be too. He might retire. That's possible, but I doubt it. Most people don't walk away from $30.8 million.
Correct. And then you come in next year, you have $30 million left on your contract. It's not fully guaranteed. And then technically, you're unrestricted free agent in 2025. So technically, Chris Paul has $60 million that he could make. But this year, $30.8 million fully guaranteed instead of Jordan Poole's $128 million. It creates a little bit of flexibility, relieves the stress financially off of your back. So in that regard, it makes sense. But on the court, the Warriors are still tiny. If anything, they got smaller. You take away, actually, Chris Paul's not a phenomenal three-point shooter whatsoever. I mean, to compare him and Jordan Poole, volume-wise, they're not really similar. So I don't know if it's a great idea to get older, to get smaller. Meanwhile, your problems were you couldn't get a lot of rebounds outside of Kevon Looney. Mm-hmm. Defensively, you couldn't hold on to the ball. You weren't getting to the free throw line. To me, the problems of the Warriors still remain. I think, I
don't think they're done. I think if they go get Brook Lopez, I think that would make a difference big time.
Could be.
I really do.
No, I do think if you go get Brook Lopez, a lot of your problems, size-wise, may be solved.
Yeah.
Because
Looney and Brook Lopez out there at the same time, that's pretty big.
Yeah, because now you have a big guy that could shoot. Kevon Looney's an interior guy entirely.
Brook Lopez changes the opponent's defense because he can hit the three-pointer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't love this trade. I really don't for the Warriors because it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, Poole is not a very good defender.
That's correct.
He's a lousy defender.
In the playoffs, he
had
crumbled.
a relatively poor season.
Yeah.
But I can understand why. I think that the trauma from the being punched out by Draymond Green at the beginning of the season was something that hurt the team badly. And this is how they're trying to correct it without getting rid of Draymond Green.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting because Curry, we have to remember, also said that he would like at least one more season with, the core three of him, Clay, and Draymond again.
And he's going to get it.
He probably will get it if the Warriors and Draymond Green could come to an agreement. And like I said, 5 years, 140. Originally, he was asking for 5 years, 162.8, if I'm not mistaken, or 62.4, something like that, over $160 million. I don't think he'll get that full amount. I do think you're going 140 maybe, and this allows you to maybe, if they really want to, hit the 162 that Draymond was asking for last year. So we'll see. I don't love this trade, like I said. Size-wise, you still have an issue. Even if you bring back Draymond Green. Draymond Green's 6'6", I think.
Yeah.
I know he could play any position, really, but you don't have a big guy.
He's a monster out there, though. He brings an intensity that a lot of players don't.
Right.
And that benefits the Warriors, I think. Generally, when he doesn't get too many technical fouls and do stupid things, which he's capable of doing. But, they're going to hang on to him. They're going to have the core three back, Chris Paul off the bench. And they're not done yet. I bet they try to get Brook Lopez.
Could be. I will also say this before we move on to our next topic. Chris Paul is not a guy that pushes tempo. He likes to take his time bring the ball up the court, which the Warriors are notorious for a quick offense. Offense, fast ball movement. You see Curry dashing around from side to side, up and down. He goes all over the place. This is a fast offense. Chris Paul at 38 years old, I don't see him, exactly being the Flash going up and down the court. He likes to take his time, which could slow this offense. It could cause problems. Draymond Green, too, pushes the ball down the court, gets the offense going. I don't see Chris Paul doing that personally. So
what number is he going to wear?
It's a good question.
Listen, Curry wears number 3, right?
Curry wears 30.
30, that's right. So maybe he will wear 3. Isn't that his number?
Yeah, he wears 3. Yeah, so I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. I don't think anyone on the Warriors at the moment is wearing the number 3. Yeah. Okay. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. But we'll see. We will see. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.